Okay. Hey everybody. So I'm going to show you my moringa, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do basically the final harvest. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about moringa while I'm doing all this. So most people in Tennessee are not familiar with moringa because it is a tropical plant. You really cannot grow it in the ground because it will die back in the frost. So what I've done is I've grown it in nursery bags, the fabric nursery bags. The bigger the better, but you don't want them too big and then they're a lot harder to move. So on this row here, these are still our babies from this year. So as you can see, they really haven't gotten too tall or too big. These guys were started in June. So, you know, it being October now, they're really not that old. Now, the ones on this back row here, these were much older. These are like 3 to 4 years old. And they've done quite well. But this year, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to completely cut them back to about, well, we'll say here-ish. So really about 12 inches above the soil line. And then we're going to just put them in the garage like that. Before I tried putting them in and they were a little bit tall and they still had leaves on them to a certain point, but that just got to be too much of a pain in the butt. So we're going to cut them way back, obviously harvest as much as we can of the wonderful greens, but then that'll be it. We'll turn that into a powder. So we'll start on the smaller ones. Right now there's a lot of branches that really don't have too much, so I'm going to harvest as much as the leaf as I can, because that's what we want to dry. That's what you want to focus on, is the leaves.
Let me tell you, the leaves are delicious.
Yeah, they have a distinct flavor. It's kind of broccoli-ish. You'll notice some of these leaves are yellow, and that's fine. That's going to happen. Not all of them are going to stay green. But it's supposed to freeze the next 5 days, and they will not do well in the freeze.
With personal experience, I can say that this is like a really good food source.
It's a superfood.
It's healthy and it tastes good. That's two good things.
Yeah, okay. So you can see I was just cutting them, but you can actually
just like remove it like that.
Yeah, you can just pull it like that, especially since all these guys are getting
really big.
Well, this is going to be about, there's not much more for them to do. They'll basically go in hibernation as soon as we put them in the garage, and we will bring them back. We did it before where we would basically take them out every time
it didn't freeze.
It didn't freeze. Since you guys know, here in Knoxville, yes, it gets cold, but it doesn't stay below freezing.
Sometimes it doesn't freeze.
Most days it doesn't freeze. I mean, I guess during the middle of the winter maybe, but
yeah, but that's only during the middle of the winter, which isn't that long.
Nope.
Compared to the other, like 300 something days.
Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty much it for harvesting the small guys. So
now, how do we harvest the big guy?
You go. Let's get you back. You don't need to be in my butt.
Sorry, I was just trying to capture.
Okay. So we're gonna get all the smaller branches. Kind of cut those down. There's not a ton of that. There are ways to propagate moringa from the stem, from the main trunk. I've seen some wizards do it with these branches, but I've never been successful doing it. So I'm going to try to trim those away, but I'm not going to throw away these branches, the main stalk. I'm going to keep that for now. Maybe somebody in the group would like to try to see if they could get it to root. So I'm not going to throw it away. So I'm going to go about a foot above the soil level. Cut that. Cut that. Okay, so that one's done. So we're going to pull this one out. Now you can see a lot of grass got in here, but nothing really took in the actual container itself, so that's good. I definitely used wood chips as a mulch layer, and that seemed to work pretty good. Now what I'm pulling out here was the irrigation that I installed, and I used regular drip line stuff that I bought from Lowe's, but I ran out of the tubing and I didn't want to go buy more, so as you can see, this is just a regular hose. And then I used all the fittings and everything to...
Works very well too.
Yeah, it did. It worked really good. Okay. So you can see the container. Oh, you can see the grass too. So you can see how good the soil is. Nice and black. Now, what I want to do with these is I really only want the main taproot. So I'm gonna kind of dig away. Are you able to see all that? Are you able to see what I'm doing?
Get in there?
Yeah, so you can see the main taproot and the main root system. Move it around a little bit. I don't want to mess it up too much, but not all the roots are going to be necessary. Just the main one.
Okay. Oh, it's nice to see the roots are nice and big.
Okay. So that's great. So we can just save this and make sure this doesn't dry out and this doesn't freeze. And then next spring, I will replant this. And then that's how we got these guys that are way bigger and way thicker. So every year it'll just get bigger and bigger. If we were further south where it didn't freeze, we wouldn't have to do that. So that's pretty much it, guys. So we're gonna do this on repeat and do all of them. We might shoot another quick video afterwards. All right, well, thanks a lot, guys. So I want to do a little size comparison between the first year, not even 6 months old, and the big ones here that are multiple years old. So definitely a lot bigger. Okay, so some people asked me about, does your moringa flower and do you get drumsticks? So I want to show you, this is one of the plants that's a couple years old. So yes, they will go to flower, but obviously not enough time for that little guy. Do you see it? That is the beginning of a drumstick. Now the drumstick can get 2 feet long and, you know, good inch wide. So no, I've had one drumstick since moving to Tennessee, and the seeds were not 100% developed. So do not think you're going to grow moringa in 1 year in Knoxville and think you're going to get drumsticks. That's for our friends in Florida and other tropical areas. All right, and on to the next question. How tall should you let your moringa trees get? And if you do not trim your moringa trees, how tall will they get? I have had moringa grow 10 feet in a year when I lived in Florida. These guys are, well, I'm 5'9" on a good day, and I can barely reach the top of the trees. So these guys have already been cut back at least 2 times, some of them 3 times this year. So they will definitely grow tall. But as you can see, they're not extremely bushy. But what you do want is you do want to keep topping it so it gets bushier and bushier and just aids in harvesting. And all you're really interested in is the leaves. People will say every part of it is edible, and that might be true, but I've definitely been warned about using the root. I'm not going to say you can't use it, but definitely research it before you start utilizing the root of the moringa. So I know you're wanting to know, how much have I actually harvested so far off the trees here. Hey, Milo. And you can see it's quite a bit. Now, I do not eat this raw. We dry it, and I will show you how we dry it. But this is a lot to dry. So if anyone from the group would like fresh moringa, and I know that's a delicacy, please let me know, because for the next couple of days this will be fine. I know the leadership meeting is on Tuesday, so anybody wants some, they can come to the leadership meeting, and I can have some bags ready for you. And I also have dried stuff too, if you'd like that. Now, you can see how many potential moringa trees we have if someone's real adventurous and wants to try to get those to root. So let me know if you're interested in that. Okay, So the next question is, do those fabric bags really keep the moringa's taproot from growing out of the bag? So that was a great question. So as we move this one up, what do we see? Yeah, we see roots. So they did a pretty good job of keeping them in. I mean, that's not too much. I don't know if that's going to come with it when I pull them out, but we'll see. So I know what you're saying, Ben. I don't want to buy those fancy fabric bags. I want to go moringa in the ground. And you absolutely can do that. But you're going to have to do this exact same thing come October, whatever day before our first freeze, because they will die. I had about 30 moringa trees, not this big, but pretty good size. And I just wanted to see that first year, could they handle our frost? And no, they couldn't. But you can dig them out, and it's a lot easier when it's in a container. But you can see how big that taproot is, and you know how lovely our soil is. So it's a lot harder getting it out of the ground, but that shouldn't stop you. You can definitely do the same thing in the ground. Just be prepared to dig them out and keep them from freezing and drying. Okay, I know some people are going to ask, hey, what's those really big leaves with the vines and the black seeds or berries? So that's Malabar spinach. I did not intentionally plant Malabar spinach right next to the moringa, but as I'm sure with most permaculture gardens, and that's cranberry hibiscus, by the way, not purple hemp. There's Malabar spinach in here. There you go. There's Malabar spinach. And that will climb on anything. And the moringa was the tallest thing in this section of the garden. So that's what you see there, not some ginormous moringa leaves or anything like that. Okay, people have been asking about my moringa seed and what do I use. And this is the moringa seed that I've given away. I bought, I think these were like I don't know, 1,000 seeds or whatever. But basically what I do with these guys is I just soak them overnight. And then I put a container, like a plastic container, and I put some paper towel in it, and I moisten it. And I let these little suckers sit on there, closed up, in a warm spot for a couple days. They will, as soon as they start to sprout, I take them out and I plant them in a much bigger pot. I did 5-inch pots, I think 4-inch pots, and then as soon as they were a decent size, that's when I planted them. But I was lazy and didn't do it until like June, so these plants could actually be a lot bigger. So what I've decided to do is, these guys are kind of small, and they told me that they want to go home with one of the members of the Knoxville Regenerative Co-op. Not that big one. No, I'm going to keep that one. But yeah, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 moringa plants that I am going to shuffle into the garage and keep from freezing. So you'll have to do the same thing. You cannot leave them outside because they will die. So just let me know who in the group is interested, and we'll arrange for pickup. So what does it look like when I'm all done? And that's what it looks like. So moringa actually does not like wet roots. So I'm only doing that because I know they're going to be going into a container and they're not going to be wet for long. So you can see the size difference between the ones we did this year versus the ones we've done multiple years. So I still have all those. So if anybody is interested, I'm not going to leave them outside. They're all going to go into the garage as well. And if you would like to try your hand at propagating moringa from the actual trunk, you let me know. See ya. Okay. The ducks really want to see what's going on over here because they love moringa too. But that is basically the final count of how much moringa did we harvest off of all our trees. Now for most people, if all they were doing was drying this and putting it into capsules and using moringa as like a supplement, this is probably enough moringa for you for the whole year. But I want to be careful. I saw a little bumblebee in here. But yeah, so there's a lot, and I'll show you how I dry it. So this is how I dry it. This has some moringa in it from the last time, so I still gotta take that stuff out and make it into a powder. But that's what's going to dry the rest of the moringa too. So I think I picked this up at Carm. It wasn't very expensive. Let's see. Was it? Yep, Carm store. $5.99. So finally I found something that was cheap at Carm. So, and it's worked really well for us. And I think that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys.